Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us on your Friday night. I'm Sophie Erber. The third suspect in the New Year's Eve day shooting has changed his plea to guilty on all 4 charges. It's now our top story at 5. Carlos Morales appeared in court this afternoon and pled guilty to second-degree murder, plus 3 counts of reckless use of a firearm. Morales is one of 4 people connected to that New Year's Day shooting that left 18-year-old Mia Critis dead. According to court documents, Morales reached that plea agreement yesterday.
Intentional discharge of a firearm in a reckless manner in which bodily injury occurs in violation of Iowa Code Section 724.30, subparagraph 2, and 703.1. How do you plead? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
They have yet to schedule a sentencing date, but Carlos's brother, Christopher Morales, pled guilty to second-degree murder and 4 counts of reckless use of a firearm. That was back on June 22nd as part of a plea agreement. He was sentenced to 55 consecutive years. And one of the 2 inmates accused of killing a prison nurse and a correctional officer during an attempted escape has entered a plea. Thomas Woodard Jr. is now pleading guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of kidnapping, and 1 count of attempted murder. The 38-year-old Woodard and his co-defendant, 29-year-old Michael Dutcher, had each pled not guilty back in April. Investigators say they used hammers in the March 23rd deaths of Nurse Lorena Schulte and correctional officer Robert McFarland. In consumer news, lumber prices reached record high price levels back in June of this year, so just a few months ago, at around $1,500 per 1,000 feet of boards. Now prices sit at about half that cost. But despite the decline, specialty products like plywood and OSB are still 500% higher than pre-pandemic levels. Coming up later tonight, KCAU 9's Dylan Adams tells us how this is affecting local home builders. Tax-free weekend is back in the state of Iowa. That's today and tomorrow. Shoppers can purchase clothing and shoes, and everything is tax exempt as long as the items are less than $100. Christy Pittman has owned her boutique store a la mode for 14 years now and estimates that roughly 75% of her store falls under the tax exempt categories. A la mode opens at 11 tomorrow morning. Well, today marks one of this year's Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, day 1 that is. We are taking a live look now into Sturgis, South Dakota, where you can see streets there full of life, and bikers and pedestrians alike are out for that annual rally. Organizers expect roughly 700,000 people during this 10-day event. Rally goers are allowed to drink on public property, with the idea being to limit crowds indoors at bars. What a scene. It is time tonight for our first check on the weather. Chief Meteorologist Scott Larson with us. Yesterday, Scott, you were out at the fair. Today, sorry, you're back in studio. But everyone out enjoying this beginning of our weekend in Siouxland. Got a great day.
Some beautiful weather out there today, Sophie. We had high temperatures ranging between 80 and 90 degrees for most of the map here. 81 in Storm Lake, 86 Sioux City. Low temperatures tonight are going to stay rather mild. We're talking about between 70 and 75 degrees. There is a chance of seeing some rain happen overnight. A better opportunity as we get into tomorrow afternoon and evening. Some of those storms tomorrow may be severe. We have a slight risk out from the National Weather Service, large hail and damaging winds, potential threats with those developing storms tomorrow. We'll have more information on that and what's coming our way for the rest of the weekend. That's coming up in the 9 on 9 forecast in a few minutes. Sophie?
All right, thanks so much, Scott. We'll check back. A campaign to require a government-issued photo identification to vote in Nebraska has started collecting signatures. This in an effort to place the issue on the 2022 general election ballot. It's called Citizens for Voter ID. State lawmakers have repeatedly rejected attempts to pass a voter identification law, prompting campaign organizers to seek voter approval for a state constitutional amendment. If this measure passes, lawmakers would have to determine details about that policy, including what would count as valid ID and how the state would provide free IDs to those who do not have one. Conservatives tonight on Capitol Hill are trying to slam the brakes on the bipartisan infrastructure package. This after a new nonpartisan study found the deal could add billions to our national deficit. DC's Raquel Martin reports now from the White House and insists that it's all paid for.
reckless federal spending.
Some Republicans are attacking the $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure deal after the Congressional Budget Office predicted the plan will add $256 billion to the federal deficit over the next 10 years.
This is a bait and switch.
Conservatives like Texas Senator Ted Cruz say the Republicans and Democrats who sold the package as an affordable investment are dead wrong.
The pay-fors are quite simply gimmicks.
Joel Griffith with the Heritage Foundation agrees. He says Republicans need to fight the bill.
This is just a Trojan horse.
But the White House says the Congressional Budget Office missed some additional revenue and some savings.
Over $200 billion in lower costs for emergency programs.
And White House economist Heather Boushey says the investment will pay for itself.
Making sure that bridges don't fall down, making sure that people have access to broadband. That's going to keep businesses working. These are the kinds of investments that are going to pay off over the long term.
Cruz maintains American taxpayers will get the bill for the plan.
If you pay taxes, they're going up.
But Boushey insists the infrastructure spending won't cost the middle class.
The president has been crystal clear from day one that he will not raise taxes on anyone making less than $400,000 a year.
Senators are in session this weekend to work on the plan. Democrats need at least 10 Republican yes votes to push the bill forward. In Washington, Raquel Martin, KCAU 9 News.
The University of Nebraska is stopping shy of requiring COVID-19 vaccines tonight. Instead, they say they're strongly recommended for people who are affiliated with their university. In response to rising case numbers statewide and guidance from the CDC tonight, the university is also encouraging vaccinated faculty, staff, and students to still wear masks while indoors. The same also goes for those who are unvaccinated. Masks are required indoors for everyone at the University of Nebraska Medical Center. Genetic variants of COVID-19 we know have been emerging and circulating all around the world during this pandemic, but right now the spotlight, of course, on that Delta variant. It attacks the respiratory system and is highly contagious. So how do you protect yourself best against it? Dr. James Lawler with the University of Nebraska Medicine recommends safety measures that we've always utilized since the beginning of the pandemic, in addition to getting your vaccine.
So new variants will continue to arise, I think, as long as we give the virus an opportunity to infect humans and to transmit from person to person. So the most important thing we can do to prevent variants from arising is to vaccinate a large proportion of the world's population, which we're starting to do.
Dr. Lawley adds that the goal should be to reach between 6 and 7 billion total vaccinations. Several businesses tonight are requiring proof of vaccination as the Delta variant spreads. And now Yelp rolling out a new feature to help you figure out those vaccination policies. The new filter will let you see if proof of vaccination is required for visitors. And yet another filter also lets users see the vaccination status of the staff. Yelp says it's an effort to help consumers understand how a business is operating amid the pandemic guidelines. Businesses would have to activate the vaccination status filter on their own Yelp page for it to work for consumers. Antibiotics fight infections and save lives, we know, but when should you use them and when should you not? With more, here's ABC's Alex Perche.
Since the invention of penicillin almost 100 years ago, antibiotics have saved countless lives. They fight off life-threatening infections like pneumonia and sepsis. But overuse of antibiotics could lead to superbugs that are resistant to these drugs. And because of that, doctors use them only when absolutely necessary. New studies from the CDC show that antibiotic prescriptions by doctors' offices dropped by 1/3 during the COVID-19 pandemic. They also found antibiotic use in nursing homes went down considerably. Researchers think there may be several explanations for this. First, they think social distancing and quarantining limited the spread of diseases that might need antibiotics. They also think decreased doctor's office visits during the pandemic led to less prescriptions for those drugs overall. And antibiotics don't help treat COVID, except in very rare cases. You should only take these drugs if they are prescribed by a doctor. With this Medical Minute, I'm Alex Perche, ABC News.
Do you feel like you're paying more for less nowadays at the grocery store? Well, you're not alone, and what you could do about it coming up in about 10 minutes.
And there is a risk of seeing a few severe thunderstorms in Siouxland tomorrow afternoon. High temperatures look to stick in the 80s and 90s, and there's another chance of rain happening on Tuesday. The 9 on 9 forecast coming up next.
You're watching KCAU 9 News with Sophie Erber and Chief Meteorologist Scott Larson. This is KCAU 9 News at 5.
Thanks for sticking with us on your Friday. One of those weeks I feel like we're finishing out where I at least have been taking our good weather for granted. It's got to be a little bit boring for you, Scott.
Well, we have seen a little bit more activity here in the last couple days, at least, Sophie. We did pick up on some rain last night into this morning with a series of thunderstorms, a couple of which were severe, especially up north toward Sioux Falls. Some of these storms dropping some hailstones as large as tennis balls up to the north of Sioux Falls last night. You can see that those moved through from northwest to southeast, and right around 9 o'clock this morning is when things wrapped up as far as the precipitation goes. It was pretty heavy in spots, especially where you see the green on your screen. That's where we had radar estimated precipitation values of greater than 1 inch. That includes near the Sioux City Metro. Looking at some of the rainfall totals from last night into this morning, Orange City received about 1 1/3 inches. Carroll, Iowa picking up 2/3 of an inch of rain, 0.6 of an inch at the Sioux Gateway Airport. Some spots in the north of town saw as much as about 3/4 of an inch. Concord, Nebraska, that's in Dixon County, getting just over 1/3 of an inch of rain and 1/3 of an inch from our weather watcher in Vermillion, South Dakota. Things have been pretty nice out there today. We've seen mostly sunny skies from the Ho-Chunk shows that we do have that chance of seeing some thunderstorms happen for tomorrow. 88 on Sunday, 92 on Monday. Some more storms happening on Tuesday, and temperatures look to be in the middle to upper 80s going through the end of next week. Well, here's a beautiful shot of a country sunrise. This comes to us from Jan out in Wakefield, Nebraska. If you have a picture that you want to share with Siouxland, make sure to find our website, go to the weather tab, and send us your photos.
I'm glad you told us that was sunrise, because that could easily be one of the sunsets I've been looking at lately. We've had some good ones.
Yeah, we certainly have. If you have a picture that you want to share, again, make sure to go to our website.
All right, thanks so much, Scott. Well, the Woodbury County Fair, we know, is back. You were just there throwing axes, and Marjorie Hoppy has been demonstrating how to use a spinning wheel there for the last 40 years. Hoppy told KCAU she's been attending the fair since it started in the 1920s. Can you believe that? And began demonstrating at the Old Town when she was an elementary school teacher. She celebrated another milestone there today, her 100th birthday. Happy birthday. You can get inside the fun in this digital exclusive story. It's posted on our website right now at SiouxlandProud.com or the KCAU 9 mobile news app. Well, if you love off-roading or camping, this custom vehicle might just be for you. What makes this dream machine so ideal? Coming up in about 7 minutes. But first, is your favorite snack getting smaller? How shrinkflation is hitting grocery stores and companies are sneaking in a profit next. Welcome back. While grocery shopping, on some items you may notice that you're still paying the same price but getting less of it in the box or bag. Experts say it's not a figment of your imagination, but what they're now calling shrinkflation. Gina Marini explains.
According to the Consumer Price Index, from June of last year through June of this year, prices across the board have gone up by 5.4%.
Because we're in an inflationary period right now, that's when you see the most downsizing or shrinkflation. So it really has been going on for a long time, but it tends to happen more so in times of inflation.
Edgar Dworsky is founder of ConsumerWorld.org, a consumer guide that was established nearly 3 decades ago. He says shrinkflation is when a manufacturer downsizes the product inside the box, but doesn't change the price to reflect that decrease.
It's really a sneaky price increase to shrink the product almost imperceptibly. Sometimes the packages look absolutely identical and you're paying the same amount of money, but you're getting less.
He says both the cost of raw materials and transportation of the final products are increasing, which are contributing factors.
They're feeling these inflationary pressures. They have to make a decision. Do we raise the price or do we take out a little bit from each product and hope customers don't notice?
Dworsky says it's important to pay attention to a product's net weight.
Look at the items you buy all the time. Remember what the net weight is. And when you go back to the store, double check that it hasn't changed.
Dworsky adds that store brands are most likely to be the last ones to adjust product sizes. Good to know. Well, News Nation Prime is the country's only live and national newscast in prime time. Comes your way every night at 7 o'clock on News Nation, and at 6 is the Donlin Report there. Here's a preview of what's coming up tonight.
Tonight on the Donlin Report, hundreds of people connected to 9/11 tell President Biden to stay away, why they don't want him at the upcoming memorials. And vaccine passport apps already facing problems. The man who faked his profile explains how he did it. Now here's Leland Vittert with a preview of On Balance.
Thanks, Joe. Re-education camps right in our own backyard. Why some parents fear what's being taught in public school is on par with Chinese indoctrination. That's coming up on Balance tonight, followed by News Nation Prime.
Again, if you're interested, News Nation Prime comes your way every night at 7, and you can see some of the channels here for News Nation. Just check your local listings. We are taking a ride in a new luxury off-road vehicle that some are calling the ultimate remote work cruiser. That's next in TechSmart. It's a new off-road luxury vehicle that also doubles as the ultimate remote work cruiser. Rich DeMuro shows us the ropes in today's TechSmart segment.
Remote work used to be a buzzword. Now it's a reality for millions of workers around the globe.
If you want the ultimate social distancing conversation, talk about one of these things.
Lance Gillies is CEO and founder of Earth Cruiser, makers of extreme vehicles that can take you just about anywhere.
People might be surprised how doable it is.
Terra Nova is their latest model. It's built on the chassis of a standard truck.
With proper management, you can be off the grid and out working or camping, adventuring for as long as you want.
Rugged on the outside, cozy on the inside.
Got a nice high ceiling, I like that.
There's everything you need.
So if I'm working remotely, this is my domain right here.
Absolutely.
I've got my little place to work. This is pretty fun. This is the pass-through, so you can go straight from the cab to the house, especially if the elements outside are a little dicey.
Don't forget this.
Pull-out composting toilet.
A solar roof keeps you charged up. There's even a way to filter water from a stream.
We just wanted to go kind of further and further into the forest, essentially.
Dave Burns is HR director at a tech company. He lived, worked, and traveled in an RV for 8 years. Now his Earth Cruiser is mostly for the weekends.
The biggest sort of challenge with the Earth Cruiser now is it's much more capable of getting further off the grid and further out of reach from towers.
Which means finding a cell phone signal could be tricky.
Monday through Friday, you just have to not get quite as lost as you can on the weekends.
We take a live look outside right now from the Ho Chunk Center in downtown Sioux City. Scott returns with one more check on your forecast, so stay with us. Finally, tonight, a high-speed pursuit through the Los Angeles area came to a dramatic end on camera. Check it out. The driver of the white vehicle on your screen was said to be traveling at, quote, very high speeds through the LA area. Police say that driver was initially sought for a traffic violation, but eventually that car struck a power pole, spun out of control, and flipped over, ending that chase. Naturally, witnesses saw several people exit the vehicle after the crash, seemingly unharmed. So safe to say they got pretty lucky. No word yet on any arrests tonight, but safe to say one or more was made.
Yeah, it looks like that did not end well. They're lucky that they were able to exit that vehicle okay.
Yes, you're right. And we're lucky. We have a pretty decent weekend on tap despite a minimal chance of some storms tomorrow.
Yeah, it looks like we will have a few thunderstorms in the cards for us here. That is some good news as we continue to struggle with those drought conditions here in Siouxland. Rain is expected to occur after midnight tonight with a low temperature of 72 and a south-southeast wind of 10 to 15 miles an hour. Tomorrow, high temperature of 89, and it looks like we'll have some rounds of storms, mainly early in the morning and then late in the afternoon and evening. And checking out that severe weather outlook for tomorrow, there's a slight risk spread across Siouxland. So again, some of these storms could be on the powerful side with large hail and damaging wind gusts. Meteorologist Caitlin Lohr will be in tomorrow afternoon, and she'll have all the latest updates as that comes together.
All right, thanks so much, Scott. Thank you for joining us. We hope you'll join us here again at 6 with Jake. Until then, have a great night, everyone.